Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start today by telling you about Robert. Robert lives in Granbury, Texas. He's married, he's got 3 children, and he works in a bank. And every Wednesday morning at 2 a.m., Robert wakes up, brushes his teeth, throws on some clothes, and travels 15 minutes to his local parish. And every Wednesday morning, from 2:30 to 3:30 in the morning, you will find Robert doing Eucharistic adoration. And if that's not enough, every Saturday on his day off, he travels an hour and a half one way, drives to Waco, Texas. And he always makes sure that he gets there at 12 noon to have lunch and to feed Charlie, his college roommate. The problem is, Charlie doesn't have a clue who this man is who shows up every Saturday to feed him. Because Charlie has early onset Alzheimer's disease. I asked Robert once, I said, Robert, with all that's on your plate, the wife, the 3 kids, the job, Eucharistic adoration on Wednesday morning, why on earth, every Saturday, why on earth do you make that 3-hour round trip to feed Charlie, especially when Charlie doesn't have a clue who you are or even that you're there? I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, Father, I do it to give witness to what I learn every Wednesday morning in front of the Eucharist. Let me tell you something. Robert does not simply adore the bread of life. He's being transformed into the bread of life. And I think what Robert reminds us is this: my Eucharistic adoration must lead to Eucharistic action. And if your Eucharistic adoration does not lead you to Eucharistic adoration, to living a life of radical love, of breaking your body and pouring your blood out for other people, then I gotta ask you, what are you doing? Do you really think that Jesus needs more adorers? No! What he needs are hands and feet and eyes and mouths. You know, the Carmelites got it right. That wonderful prayer of St. Teresa of Avila. It's ascribed to her. She didn't write it, but we always say she did. But it's a beautiful prayer. Christ has no eyes now to look with compassion on the poor, except my eyes. Christ has no mouth to say a word of forgiveness, but my mouth. Christ has no hands to heal people, but my hands. Christ has no feet to bring good news to foreign lands, but my feet. And Christ has no body to be broken in love, but my body. To adore the Eucharist is to become the Eucharist. Eucharistic adoration must lead to Eucharistic action. On a Wednesday afternoon in June of 1986, with 100 other people, I walked the grounds of Dachau concentration camp. I had brought my camera to take pictures, but as soon as you get onto the grounds of a concentration camp, you know it is most inappropriate to take pictures. And the one thing I remember about that afternoon was, with hundreds of other people, we walked the grounds and no one said a word. You could hear a pin drop. You stand in front of the ovens and you can't imagine. I remember walking outside and seeing the spot, because it's marked on the ground, seeing the spot where Barracks 26 used to stand. The barracks has been torn down, but there's a ground marker indicating where it was. And as I stood there in front of that marker, I said a prayer for Jen. I had met Jen a number of years earlier. She was the cook at St. Mary's Parish in Downers Grove, Illinois. And I remember one afternoon walking through the kitchen, and she was cooking something, and I saw what looked like dirt on her arm. And I went up a little bit closer, and it was numbers. Her identification number. She told me she had been a prisoner in Barracks 26 of Dachau. Most people aren't aware of it, but did you know that not only Jews and gays, but also Catholics were rounded up by Adolf Hitler? And the Catholics who were sent to Dachau stayed in Barracks 26. Jen told me a story about what went on every day at Barracks 26 that always makes me sit up straight. She told me how the Catholics in Barracks 26, in violation of the Geneva Convention, only got one meal a day. The meal consisted of a piece of bread the size of your fist and a cup of watered-down soup. And every day in Barracks 26 of Dachau, every day, a prisoner would give up their bread and soup, and a priest would privately consecrate them. And then they would be passed around and shared by all the Catholics in Barracks 26. Let me tell you something. In Barracks 26, the Mass was never reduced to a pious, sentimental devotion. It was all about dying to my hunger so that others could be fed. It was all about giving so that others could receive. Let me tell you something. In Barracks 26, the bread of life was never an appetizer for apathy. It was a radical challenge to die to myself so that other people can live. You know, St. Augustine, in his famous sermon 624 on the Eucharist, St. Augustine has that wonderful saying. He says, when you get into that communion line, think twice, because you must become what you receive. Become what you receive. You and I, by virtue of our baptism, we are the body of Christ on earth. We are the Eucharist. And as Robert reminds us, our Eucharistic adoration must translate into Eucharistic action. And as Jen and the Catholics of Dachau in Barracks 26 remind us, the Eucharist is not meant to be a pious, sentimental devotion. We must never allow the bread of life to become the appetizer for apathy. This is how you live like a saint, by dying to yourself day in and day out, by giving of myself day in and day out, by breaking my body, by pouring out my blood day in and day out. Let me tell you something. The very day that you and I get serious about being who we claim to be, the bread of life, the body of Christ, the Eucharist, the very day we take seriously that obligation and that challenge, people will be packing the church. Until that day, all people see are usually people on fire for an hour and then apathetic Monday through Saturday. We've got work to do. And more than anything else, you want to live like a saint? Become the Eucharist that you receive. May the Lord give you his peace.